Get out! Get out! Bellamy's voice cut through our kitchen like a blade. She wasn't just angry. Her eyes had gone cold, calculating. The kind of cold that meant this wasn't about our fight anymore. She grabbed my jacket from the chair and threw it at my chest so hard the zipper caught my chin. A thin line of blood appeared on my finger when I touched it. Now, Thatcher, I mean it. I stared at her wedding ring finger, empty. The pale band of skin where her ring used to sit glowed under the kitchen light. When had she taken it off? Before our argument? During it? Behind her on the counter, her phone screen lit up with a text message. Just long enough for me to read. Is it done? Did he leave? My stomach dropped into my boots. This wasn't a fight. This was an ambush. I stepped toward the front door, jacket in my hands, while she followed me like a warden. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. You're making the right choice, she said, but her voice sounded like she was reading from a script. I opened my mouth to ask who was texting her, but she cut me off. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The door slammed behind me. The deadbolt clicked, then the chain lock. I stood on my own porch, holding my jacket, watching the kitchen light go out inside the house I'd been paying for. My name is Thatcher Wren, and I just realized my marriage had been over long before tonight. I sat in my truck in the driveway for 20 minutes, engine off, watching shadows move behind our bedroom curtains. Bellamy wasn't crying or paying like someone who just had a marriage-ending fight. She was moving with purpose, opening drawers, closing them, like she was following a checklist. My phone buzzed, a text from her. You scared me tonight. I don't feel safe with you here. I read it 3 times. Scared her? I hadn't raised my voice above normal conversation level. I'd asked about a credit card charge I didn't recognize, and she'd exploded. But now she was creating a different story. In writing, another text came through. Please don't contact me until you get help. Get help? For what? Asking questions about my own bank account? I started the truck and backed out of the driveway, but not before I saw her bedroom light click off. She wasn't staying awake worried about our marriage. She was sleeping peacefully, like a woman who'd just finished a job. I drove to my buddy Flint's house, my hands steady on the steering wheel. Inside my chest, something had shifted. The hurt was still there, but underneath it was something sharper. Curiosity. Because if this was planned, if someone was coaching her through text messages, then I needed to know who, and why, and what they thought they were going to get out of destroying my life. Flint answered his door in pajama pants and a confused expression. Thatcher? What the hell, man? It's almost midnight. Bellamy kicked me out, I said. Can I crash on your couch? He stepped aside without another word. That's the kind of friend Flint was. Questions later, help first. But as I lay on his couch, staring at the ceiling, sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that text message on Bellamy's phone. Is it done? Did he leave? Someone had been waiting for confirmation that I was gone. This wasn't about our argument over money. This was bigger. At 3 a.m., I pulled out my phone and did something I'd never done before in 8 years of marriage. I started taking screenshots of Bellamy's text messages. Not because I wanted to hurt her, because I had a feeling someone was trying to hurt me, and I was going to need proof of what really happened tonight. The next morning, Bellamy's text started early. 6:15 a.m. I hope you're thinking about what you did wrong. 7:30 a.m. My family is worried about me after last night. I told them you've been acting strange lately. Each message was perfectly crafted. No emotion, no spelling errors, no random thoughts. Like someone else was writing them. I screenshot every single one. Then I got dressed and went to work like nothing had happened. Because whatever game Bellamy was playing, I wasn't going to let it destroy my life. But when I walked into the office, I felt it immediately. Eyes following me. Whispers stopping when I passed. My coworker Garrison nodded at me with the kind of fake sympathy you give someone whose dog just died. My supervisor Weston called me into his office before I even reached my desk. Thatcher, we need to talk, he said, closing the door behind me. Your wife called here last night. The air in the room felt thick. What did she say? Weston looked uncomfortable. She said you were having some kind of breakdown, that you might show up here upset or angry. My hands clenched once, then relaxed. Did she say I threatened her? Not exactly, but she seemed scared. Scared. The same word from her texts. Bellamy hadn't just locked me out of the house, she'd poisoned my workplace against me before I even knew we were fighting. Weston, I said, keeping my voice level, can you tell me exactly what she said, word for word? He shifted in his chair. She said you'd been under stress lately, that you lost your temper last night and she had to ask you to leave for her safety. Lost my temper. For her safety. Every word designed to make me sound dangerous. Did she mention what I supposedly did? Weston frowned. Well, no, she just said she was worried about your mental state. Mental state, another phrase that would stick in people's minds. I nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me. Is there anything specific I need to do? Just, maybe take a personal day? Let things cool down? Take a personal day. So everyone could whisper about my breakdown while I wasn't there to defend myself. I appreciate the concern, I said, but I'm fine. I'll be at my desk if anyone needs me. Weston looked surprised. I think he expected me to be emotional, defensive, proving Bellamy's point about my mental state. Instead, I walked out calm and professional. But inside, I was taking notes. Bellamy had called my job within hours of locking me out. She'd planted seeds about my mental state and dangerous behavior before I even knew I needed to defend myself. This wasn't random anger. This was strategy, and I was going to find out what the end goal was. During my lunch break, I drove to our bank, not to empty accounts or cause drama, just to understand what I was dealing with. The teller, a middle-aged woman named Persephone, knew me from years of regular visits. Hi, Thatcher. How can I help you? I need to review our joint account activity for the past 6 months, I said, just making sure everything looks right. She pulled up the account and printed the statements. As I scanned the pages, my coffee went cold in my hands. There it was. 3 months of identical transfers. $1,500 per month to Meredith Consulting Group. I'd never heard that name in my life. Persephone, I said carefully, can you tell me who authorized these transfers? She checked the system. Your wife, Bellamy. They were set up as automatic monthly payments. $1,500 a month for 3 months. $4,500 total. Coming out of our joint account while I was paying all the household bills, thinking money was tight. Do you have any information about this consulting group? Just that it's a registered business. The payments started in June. 3 months ago. Right around the time Bellamy started complaining that we needed to tighten our budget and asking me to pick up more expenses. I thanked Persephone and walked to my truck on unsteady legs. My wife had been secretly paying someone $1,500 a month for 3 months. The same wife who was now telling everyone I was mentally unstable and dangerous. Those text messages on her phone. The perfectly crafted accusations. The immediate call to my workplace. Bellamy hadn't just decided to leave me. She'd hired someone to help her destroy me first. That evening, I sat in Flint's kitchen with a legal pad and wrote down everything I knew. Secret payments to Meredith Consulting, $4,500 total. Text messages showing someone was expecting me to leave. Immediate campaign painting me as unstable and dangerous. Coordinated timing between the lockout and workplace calls. Flint read over my shoulder. Dude, this is some serious stuff. It gets worse, I said, and told him about the missing wedding ring and the way Bellamy had moved through the house like she was following a plan. You think she's been planning this for months? I think someone's been planning this for months, and she's paying them with our money. Flint was quiet for a long time. Then he said, What are you gonna do? I looked at my notes. 3 months of evidence, a clear pattern of deception and financial manipulation. I'm going to find out who Meredith Consulting really is, I said, and then I'm going to stop funding my own destruction. Because whatever Bellamy and her consultant thought they were going to accomplish, they'd made one critical mistake. They'd assumed I was too trusting to notice. They were wrong. The next morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day researching. Meredith Consulting Group had a minimal web presence, just a basic website about family transition services and conflict resolution. But when I dug deeper into the business registration, I found a name, Selim Meredith, licensed family consultant. I found his LinkedIn profile, professional photo, expensive suit, and a bio that made my skin crawl, helping individuals navigate complex family situations with strategic communication and asset protection. strategic communication, asset protection. I kept digging, found client testimonials that were all variations of the same theme. Selim helped me protect myself during a difficult divorce. Thanks to Meredith Consulting, I was able to secure my financial future. Every testimonial was from a woman. Every difficult situation involved a husband who was painted as unstable, unreliable, or dangerous. My hands started shaking as I read through case study after case study of men who'd been systematically destroyed by their own wives, with Selim Meredith's professional help. Then I found the smoking gun. A detailed blog post titled, "Building Your Case, Documentation Strategies for High-Conflict Situations." The post laid out a step-by-step plan that made my blood run cold. 1. Document concerning behaviors, real or perceived. 2. Create a paper trail of safety concerns. 3. Involve third parties, workplace, family, friends. 4. Secure financial assets before initiating separation. 5. Maintain consistent narrative across all communications. I was reading a playbook for destroying someone's life, and Bellamy had been following it to the letter. That afternoon, my sister Aurelia called. "Thatcher, I'm worried about you," she said without even saying hello. My stomach sank. "What did Bellamy tell you?" "She called me this morning. She said you've been acting erratic lately, that you scared her so badly she had to lock you out of the house." Erratic. Another carefully chosen word. "Aurelia, did she give you any specifics about what I supposedly did?" "Well, no, but she sounded really shaken up. She said you've been paranoid about money and accusing her of things." Paranoid about money, when I'd discovered $4,500 in secret payments. She also said you might try to contact family members to turn them against her. I closed my eyes. Bellamy wasn't just destroying my reputation with strangers. She was poisoning my own family against me, and doing it proactively so that anything I said would sound like retaliation. "Aurelia, I need you to know something. I never raised my voice to Bellamy. I never threatened her. I asked about a charge I didn't recognize, and she escalated it into a fight." Silence on the other end. "Thatcher, that sounds like what someone having a breakdown would say." My sister, my own sister, was doubting my version of reality. "I'm going to text you some screenshots," I said. "Look at the timestamps. Look at how calculated her messages are." "I don't want to get in the middle of." "You're already in the middle. She put you there." After I hung up, I realized what Selim Meredith's real genius was. He didn't just help wives leave their husbands. He helped them steal everything first: money, reputation, family relationships, so the husband had nothing left to fight with. But he'd made one mistake with me. He'd assumed I'd react emotionally, get angry, make threats, prove their point about my instability. Instead, I was gathering evidence, and I was about to turn his own strategy against him. My name is Thatcher Wren, and I need to tell you who I was before all this started. I'm the guy who pays bills early, keeps receipts organized in labeled folders, and reads instruction manuals before assembling anything. I've worked at the same municipal office for 12 years, managing building permits and zoning applications. I drive the speed limit, return shopping carts, and have never missed a family birthday. I married Bellamy because she brought excitement to my careful, quiet life. She was spontaneous where I was planned, outgoing where I was reserved. I thought we balanced each other, but somewhere in the last year, her spontaneity had turned into secrecy. Her social confidence had turned into manipulation, and I'd been too trusting to see it happening. The night she locked me out, I'd asked about a $400 charge to a spy I'd never heard of. A reasonable question about our shared money. She'd responded like I'd accused her of murder. Now I understood why. She wasn't just hiding spa visits. She was hiding $1,500 monthly payments to a consultant who specialized in destroying husbands. But Bellamy and Selim had made a critical miscalculation. They thought my careful nature made me weak. They were about to learn. It made me methodical. And when a methodical man decides to protect himself, he doesn't just react. He plans. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Not some flashy divorce attorney who'd escalate everything into a war, but a quiet family law specialist named Huxley Kemp, who had a reputation for being thorough and discreet. Huxley's office was in a converted house downtown, no fancy lobby or intimidating artwork. He listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes in precise handwriting. When I finished, he set down his pen, and looked at me directly. Mr. Wren, what you're describing is financial infidelity combined with systematic reputation destruction. In my experience, this level of coordination usually means your wife is planning to file for divorce soon, and she wants to maximize her settlement while minimizing yours. How soon? Based on the timeline you've described, I guess within the next month. My throat went dry. What can I do? Huxley pulled out a legal pad and wrote 3 items. 1. Secure your financial assets immediately. 2. Document everything, every text, every call, every interaction. 3. File a motion to freeze joint accounts and prevent further unauthorized spending. The key, Huxley said, is to act legally and transparently. Don't hide anything. Don't retaliate emotionally. Just protect yourself within the law. What about the consulting payments? That's potentially fraud, depending on how the payments were authorized. We'll need bank records and account agreements. As I left Huxley's office, I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. Not hope for saving my marriage, that was clearly over. Hope for saving myself. That afternoon, I went back to the house, not to confront Bellamy or beg her to take me back, but to collect my personal documents and belongings while I still legally could. I rang the doorbell like a visitor to my own home. Bellamy answered wearing a soft sweater and perfect makeup, like she was expecting someone important. "Thatcher?" she said, voice carefully measured. "What are you doing here?" "Getting my things," I said calmly. "I called Huxley Kemp. He advised me to collect my personal documents." Her eyes flicked, just for a second. Then she smiled. "Of course, take what you need." But as I walked through the house, I noticed things. The home office had been reorganized, files moved, papers sorted, my personal documents separated from joint ones. She'd been preparing for this conversation before it happened. In our bedroom, I opened my dresser drawers. Half empty. She'd already gone through my clothes and removed anything she thought I might want. It was like she'd been erasing me from the house piece by piece, making my absence feel natural instead of sudden. "Find everything you need?" Bellamy asked from the doorway. "Most of it," I said. Then, testing her, "I'll need to come back for tax documents." "Actually," she said too quickly, "I have all that organized now. I can email you copies." Organized. Meaning she'd taken control of our financial records too. "I'd prefer the originals," I said. Her smile tightened. "Let's talk about that later." Later. When her lawyer told her what she legally had to provide. As I loaded my truck, I saw her watching from the kitchen window, phone pressed to her ear, reporting to someone that I'd come for my things, getting her next set of instructions. I drove away knowing I'd never live in that house again, but also knowing I was finally playing the same game she was. 2 days later, the financial earthquake hit. Huxley's motion to freeze our joint accounts was approved by the court. Bellamy could access money for basic living expenses, but no major transactions without court approval. More importantly, the motion required disclosure of all financial activity for the past 6 months, including the payments to Meredith Consulting. My phone started ringing at 8:47 a.m. "Thatcher, what the hell did you do?" Bellamy's voice was sharp, panicked. "I can't access our money. I protected our joint assets pending resolution of our separation. This is insane. I need that money." "For what? More consulting fees?" Silence. Then in a different tone. "I don't know what you think you discovered, but you're making a huge mistake. Bellamy, I have bank records. I know about Selim Meredith." The line went dead. 30 minutes later, she called back, calmer now, scripted. "Thatcher, I think we should meet, talk about this like adults." "Where?" "Somewhere public. For both our safety." For both our safety. Even now she was building her narrative. "Fine. Coffee shop on Maple Street, 1 hour." As I drove there, I knew this wasn't about reconciliation. This was about damage control. Bellamy's careful plan had hit a legal wall, and now she needed to figure out how to salvage it. But I had some plans of my own. Bellamy was already at a corner table when I arrived, coffee untouched, hands folded like she was posing for a portrait of wounded dignity. She dressed carefully, modest clothes, minimal makeup, the image of a woman who'd been through trauma. "Thatcher," she said as I sat down, "I'm glad you came." "Let's skip the performance," I said quietly. "Tell me about Selim Meredith." Her composure flickered. "Just for a second. I don't know what you mean." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot of our bank statement. $1,500 monthly payments to Meredith Consulting Group. She looked at the screen, then back at me. That's for marriage counseling. Salem Meredith isn't a licensed therapist. He's a consultant who helps wives build cases against their husbands. You're being paranoid. I'm being accurate. I showed her another screenshot, Calem's website testimonials. Read these, Bellamy. Every single one is about helping women protect themselves from supposedly unstable husbands. She read in silence, her coffee growing cold. I was trying to save our marriage, she said finally. By paying someone to teach you how to destroy my reputation? Her jaw tightened. By getting professional help for your behavior. What behavior? Being confused about $4,500 in secret spending? You've been controlling about money for months. I've been responsible about money for years. There's a difference. She leaned forward, voice dropping. Thatcher, you need to drop this legal action. It's embarrassing for both of us. Embarrassing for who? Me or Salem? Her eyes flashed. You're making a mistake. My lawyer says. Your lawyer says what? But she'd caught herself. Too late. Because now I knew she already had a lawyer, probably recommended by Salem. This meeting wasn't about reconciliation. It was about negotiation. And I wasn't negotiating with someone who'd spent 3 months planning my destruction. That evening, Huxley called with news that made my blood run cold. Thatcher, we got the full bank records back from the court order. And the consulting payments are worse than we thought. It wasn't just $4,500. We found additional payments from your personal savings account. My hand tightened on the phone. What do you mean? Someone transferred $8,000 from your individual savings to the joint account, then immediately out to Meredith Consulting. It happened 3 weeks ago. $8,000 from my personal account that only I was supposed to have access to. How is that possible? Your wife would need your online banking password and access to your phone for the security code. My phone. That I'd left charging on the kitchen counter every night. My password that I'd typed in front of her hundreds of times. Huxley, I said slowly. She stole from me. Yes, she did. And we can prove it. The room felt like it was tilting. While I'd been sleeping beside her, trusting her, working extra hours to cover our tight budget, Bellamy had been systematically draining my accounts to pay for my own destruction. $12,500 total. Almost $13,000 of my money spent on teaching her how to paint me as unstable, dangerous, and untrustworthy. What's our next move? I asked. We file criminal charges for theft and fraud, and we expose the entire scheme in court. Will that be enough? Huxley's voice was grim but satisfied. Mr. Wren, your wife just handed us everything we need to destroy her credibility permanently. I hung up and sat in Flint's kitchen, kept staring at the wall. Bellamy hadn't just betrayed me. She'd committed crimes. And tomorrow, she was going to find out that methodical men don't just gather evidence. They use it. The next morning brought a phone call that changed everything. Mr. Wren? This is Zephyr Colwyn from Human Resources at the municipal office. We need to schedule a meeting regarding some concerns that have been brought to our attention. My coffee went cold. What kind of concerns? I'd prefer to discuss this in person. Can you come in at 2 p.m. today? Of course. Can you tell me who raised these concerns? We'll cover everything in the meeting. But I already knew. Bellamy's campaign was escalating. I called Huxley immediately. They're coming for my job now. Expected, he said calmly. Don't go to that meeting alone. I'm coming with you. Can you do that? As your legal counsel, yes. And Thatcher? Bring every piece of evidence we've gathered. It's time to stop playing defense. At 1:45 p.m., I walked into the municipal office with Huxley beside me. My coworkers stared, some with sympathy, others with curiosity. Zephyr Colwyn was a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and the nervous energy of someone delivering bad news. Mr. Wren, we received a formal complaint about your behavior. The complainant expressed concerns about workplace safety. Who filed the complaint? Huxley asked. Zephyr shifted. Your wife, sir? Along with a supporting statement from a family consultant, Salem Meredith. What specifically was alleged? I asked. Zephyr consulted his notes. Erratic behavior, mood swings, potential for workplace violence, and substance abuse concerns. Substance abuse. That was new. Do you have any evidence of these allegations? Huxley asked. The complainant provided detailed documentation of concerning incidents. May we see this documentation? Zephyr slid a folder across the table. Inside were typed reports describing incidents I'd never had, behaviors I'd never exhibited, conversations that had never happened. According to Bellamy and Selim's fiction, I was an unstable, potentially violent man with a drinking problem and anger management issues. It was professionally written, convincingly detailed, and completely false. But Huxley was smiling. "Mr. Colwyn," Huxley said calmly, "before we respond to these allegations, I'd like to present some additional information." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. Bank records showing $12,500 in payments from Mr. and Mrs. Wren to Selim Meredith, who specializes in helping women build false cases against their husbands. Zephyr's eyes widened. Text messages from Mrs. Wren coordinating this campaign with outside parties. More documents hit the table. And most importantly, documented evidence that Mrs. Wren has been following a systematic plan to destroy her husband's reputation as part of a divorce strategy. Huxley leaned forward. "Mr. Colwyn, your employee isn't having a breakdown. He's the victim of an organized character assassination campaign funded with stolen money." The room went silent. Zephyr picked up the bank records, studied them, then looked at the typed complaint against me. "These payments," he said slowly, "they're to the same consultant who provided the supporting statement?" "Exactly," Huxley said. "Mr. Wren has been paying for his own destruction, without his knowledge." Zephyr removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly. "Mr. Wren, I owe you an apology. This complaint will be dismissed immediately, and I'll be reporting this attempted fraud to the appropriate authorities." As we left the building, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Victory. Not over Bellamy. That would come later. Victory over the lie that I was the problem. But Huxley's next words reminded me that the war wasn't over yet. "Thatcher, this was just the opening move. Bellamy's going to escalate now that her plan is falling apart." He was right. I got home to find 5 missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. The battle for my reputation was about to become a war. The escalation started with my family. My mother called at 6 p.m., voice tight with worry. "Thatcher, someone called me today. A man who said he was concerned about your behavior." "What man?" "He said his name was Selim. He claimed you'd been stalking Bellamy and making threats." My grip tightened on the phone. "Mom, that man is being paid by Bellamy to spread lies about me." But he sounded so professional, so concerned. "He's a professional liar. I'm going to text you bank records proving Bellamy paid him $12,500 to destroy my reputation." $12,000? For what? To make everyone think I'm dangerous so she can take everything in the divorce. Silence. Then quietly, "Oh honey." The relief in her voice told me everything. My own mother had started to doubt me. But it wasn't just family. Over the next 2 hours I got calls from my brother. Selim had called him too. My best friend from college, same story. My neighbor, Selim, claimed I was unstable and might lash out. Even my dentist. Professional courtesy call about a disturbed patient. Selim was working down a list, systematically contacting everyone in my life with the same message. Thatcher Wren is dangerous, but he'd made a critical mistake. He was using the same script with everyone. And when multiple people get identical, concerned calls from the same stranger, it starts to feel less like genuine worry and more like harassment. By 9 p.m., my brother Caspian was texting me, "Dude, this guy who called about you, something's off. He knew way too much about our family." The professional character assassination was becoming obvious, and that meant Bellamy and Selim were getting desperate. The next morning brought the nuclear option. 2 police officers stood on Flint's doorstep at 7 a.m. "Thatcher Wren?" the older officer asked. "Yes. We need to speak with you about a restraining order that's been filed." My stomach dropped. "A restraining order?" The younger officer handed me papers. "Your wife filed this yesterday evening. Temporary order requiring you to stay 500 feet away from her, her workplace, and the marital residence." I read the allegations with growing disbelief. Stalking and harassment, threats of violence, intimidation through third parties, potential weapons possession. Every single allegation was fabricated. "Officers," I said carefully, "I haven't contacted my wife except for one public meeting about financial matters. I haven't been to her workplace or made any threats." "Do you own any weapons?" the older officer asked. "No. The complaint mentions you have access to tools from your job." Tools. She was turning my job maintaining municipal buildings into a weapon threat. "I have standard maintenance equipment. Screwdrivers, wrenches, nothing that could be considered a weapon." The officers exchanged glances. "Mr. Wren," the younger one said, "we have to serve this order, but between us, we've seen this pattern before. If you're innocent, document everything. These kinds of cases sometimes fall apart when they get to court." After they left, I called Huxley. "Emergency hearing," he said immediately. "We're going to dismantle this restraining order piece by piece." "And Thatcher?" "Yeah? Bring everything we have on Salem and the money trail. It's time to expose the whole conspiracy." The hearing was set for Friday. 3 days to prepare our counterattack. 3 days to prove I wasn't the monster they'd painted me as, but I had something they didn't expect. Evidence. Lots of it. And a lawyer who was about to turn their own strategy against them. Friday morning, I walked into court feeling like I was entering a gladiator arena. Bellamy sat at the plaintiff's table with a lawyer I didn't recognize. An expensive-looking woman with perfectly styled hair and a briefcase that probably cost more than my truck. Beside her sat Selim Meredith himself. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with the kind of smooth confidence that comes from never being challenged. Designer suit, perfect teeth, manicured nails. He looked at me once, smiled slightly, then whispered something to Bellamy that made her nod. They thought they'd already won. When the judge called the case, Bellamy's lawyer stood up and painted a picture of an increasingly unstable husband who'd become obsessed with his wife's spending and was escalating to threats and stalking. "Your Honor, Mrs. Wren feared for her safety when she discovered her husband had hired investigators to follow her and had begun contacting her family and friends with wild accusations." Hired investigators? I'd done Google searches. Wild accusations? I'd found bank records. But she made it sound like delusion and harassment. Then it was Huxley's turn. He stood up slowly, walked to the evidence table, and began laying out documents like he was dealing cards. "Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that this restraining order is part of a systematic fraud designed to manipulate divorce proceedings. Bank statements, check registers, transfer records. Mrs. Wren has paid $12,500 to Mr. Selim Meredith, whose business specializes in helping women fabricate evidence against their husbands." The judge's eyebrows rose. "Furthermore," Huxley continued, $8,000 of those payments were stolen directly from Mr. B. Wren's personal savings account, without his knowledge or consent." Bellamy's face went pale. Calem's smile disappeared completely. Huxley kept building his case like a master craftsman. "Your Honor, here are text messages showing coordination between Mrs. Wren and unknown third parties on the night she locked her husband out of their home." Screenshots appeared on the evidence table. "Here are phone records showing Mr. Meredith contacted Mr. Wren's employer, family members, and friends with identical false reports about his mental state." More documents. "And here's Mr. Meredith's own website, advertising his services in helping women build documentation against their husbands." The judge studied each piece of evidence in silence. Finally, she looked up at Bellamy's lawyer. "Counselor, how do you explain these payments to Mr. Meredith?" Bellamy's lawyer looked panicked. "Your Honor, Mrs. Wren sought legitimate counseling services. From a man who advertises character assassination as a business service?" Silence. The judge turned to Calem. "Mr. Meredith, you're listed as a supporting witness in this restraining order petition. Were you paid by Mrs. Wren for your testimony?" Calem shifted in his seat. "I provided professional consultation services." "Did you contact Mr. Wren's employer and family members?" I was concerned for Mrs. Wren's safety." "Concerned enough to coordinate a campaign of false reports?" Salem didn't answer. The judge's voice was ice cold when she spoke. "This restraining order is dismissed. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for potential charges of fraud, theft, and perjury." The gavel came down with finality. Bellamy was crying now. Real tears, not the strategic kind. Selim was already packing his briefcase, trying to disappear. But I wasn't done with either of them yet, because Huxley had saved the best evidence for last. "Your Honor," Huxley said, "there's one more piece of evidence the court should hear." He pulled out a digital recorder. Mr. Wren's phone received a voicemail yesterday that was clearly intended for someone else. A conversation between Mrs. Wren and Mr. Meredith discussing their strategy. My heart started pounding. I didn't know about any voicemail. Huxley pressed play. Bellamy's voice filled the courtroom, clear and unmistakable. Salem, this is falling apart. He found the bank records. Calem's voice, stay calm. We've dealt with smart husbands before. The restraining order will buy us time. What if he can prove I took the money? He can't prove intent. We'll say you were protecting assets from his erratic behavior. And if they find out about the false reports? Your word against his. Judges see unstable men all the time. The courtroom was dead silent. Bellamy was staring at the recorder like it was a bomb. Salem had gone completely white. The judge looked at both of them with undisguised disgust. Miss Wren, Mr. Meredith, you've just confessed to conspiracy, fraud, and perjury in open court. She turned to the bailiff. Please escort Mr. Meredith out of the courtroom and notify the district attorney immediately. As Calem was led away in handcuffs, he looked back at Bellamy with pure hatred. She'd stopped crying. Now she just looked empty. The woman I'd married was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. Someone who'd tried to destroy me for money. But her plan had backfired completely, and my real life was finally about to begin. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Within a week, Salem Meredith was charged with fraud, extortion, and running an unlicensed consulting business. His family transition services were exposed as a systematic scheme to help women fabricate abuse claims for financial gain. Local news picked up the story. The headline read, "Consultant Charged in Divorce Fraud Scheme." Bellamy was charged as a co-conspirator, but her lawyer negotiated a plea deal, full restitution of stolen funds, community service, and a permanent restraining order preventing her from contacting me. My workplace issued a formal apology and offered me a promotion I'd been passed over for twice. My family rallied around me once they understood the scope of the deception. But the best part wasn't the vindication, it was the quiet. For the first time in months, I could sleep without wondering what lie was being spread about me. I could answer my phone without bracing for another concerned call from a stranger. I could exist in my own life without permission. The house went into foreclosure. Neither of us could afford it alone, and I didn't want the memories anyway. I found a small apartment across town with a view of the mountains. Simple, clean, peaceful. No shared accounts to monitor. No mysterious charges to question. No one texting mysterious confirmations in the kitchen. Just my life, under my control, exactly the way I wanted it. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new kitchen drinking coffee when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello, Thatcher? A woman's voice I didn't recognize. This is Hadley Morrison. I got your number from, well, this is awkward, from your ex-wife. My blood went cold. What do you want? I'm going through something similar. My husband, I think he's been planning something. Moving money, acting strange. Bellamy said you might understand. Bellamy, still trying to manipulate situations from whatever rock she'd crawled under. Ma'am, I said carefully, if you're having marital problems, you should consult with a family attorney. I can't help you. But Bellamy said you were really smart about figuring out what was happening. That you caught everything. I closed my eyes. Even in disgrace, Bellamy was trying to use my story for something. Ma'am, the best advice I can give you is this. If you think someone's deceiving you, document everything legally and transparently. Don't try to get revenge, just protect yourself. That's exactly what Bellamy said you'd say. I hung up. Then I blocked the number and poured myself another cup of coffee. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all. When you escape someone's manipulation, you don't owe them any more of your life. Not even to help other people they've somehow connected to your story. My chapter with Bellamy was over, and I was writing the next one alone. Today I live quietly. I kept my job and got that promotion. I bought a used motorcycle and learned to ride. I read books without anyone asking what they're about or why I'm wasting time. I date occasionally, but I'm careful. Methodical. I pay attention to red flags I might have ignored before. Does she ask detailed questions about my finances too early? Does she create drama, then position herself as the victim? Does she have reasonable explanations for her own money? Most importantly, Does she respect my need for transparency, or does she call it controlling? I've learned that the right person won't mind being known completely. They won't need privacy to move money, make plans, or contact professionals. The right person will want to build something together, not tear something down for profit. Bellamy taught me that trust isn't about blindly believing someone. It's about believing someone who's earned it through consistent, honest behavior. She also taught me that calmness is the most powerful weapon against chaos. When someone tries to make you react emotionally, they're usually hiding something that falls apart under careful examination. Stay calm, document everything, protect yourself legally, and never fund your own destruction. The takeaway? Some people will try to rewrite your story to make themselves the hero. Don't let them. Write your own ending. It's your life. You get to decide how it goes. The end.